Good afternoon, dear colleagues and scholars in Lublin, Poland, Europe, and beyond. I hope that you can hear me and that I can go on.
Yes.
Dzień dobry wszystkim. At this stage of our conference, we embark on a journey. Through the intricate world of textual reconstruction, translation, and onomastic analysis, focusing on monumental work of Józef Tadeusz Milik in his French translation of the Aramaic Apocryphon of Levi, presented in the volume Livre des Patriarches, édition de textes, traduction et commentaires, Testament de Levi. The volume was written at the turn of the 70s and 80s, stored and published in Milik's wardrobe and edited posthumously by Henryk Drawnel in 2022. This work is not merely a translation, but a meticulous effort to reconstruct Aramaic Apocryphon of Levi, French Apocryphe de Levi, which Milik considered the original version of what we call the Testament of Levi. Today we consider Aramaic Apocryphon of Levi a 3rd century BCE poetic narrative reflecting Jewish priestly education in the period discussed. Milik's dating, however, differed. He believed the Apocryphon of Levi should be dated to 572 or 571 BCE. Throughout my study, I have observed that Milik's approach, particularly his handling of onomastic questions, names of people and places, offers a profound dialogue with historical critical issues, shedding light on the scribal workshop and the geographical realities behind the text. Consequently, I decided to slightly modify the subtitle of my presentation. Some results of my investigation will likely be published in the non-distant future in a volume edited by Henryk Drawnel. Let us explore now how Milik's onomastic insights bridge the gap between text and historical context. However, before that, let us gain a better understanding of what the Apocryphon of Levi is. These days, it is often referred to as the Aramaic Levi document. But to maintain consistency with the quotations from the book I'm presenting, I will use the name Apocryphon of Levi. It is a poetic midrash on the Jacob cycle in Genesis 25 to 50, with a distinct emphasis on Levi's priestly ordination. Unlike the biblical narrative, Apocryphon of Levi focuses centrally on this priestly figure, structuring its content into 3 thematic parts: Levi's prayer and Jacob's family recollections, Levi's ordination with Isaac priestly instructions, and Levi's dramatized genealogy with future perspectives. In greater detail, the plot opens with Levi recounting his youth. After slaying the king of Shechem to avenge Dinah's rape, he performs ritual ablutions in a spring, purifies himself, and offers sacrifices at Bethel. A divine vision ensures where Levi ascends to heaven, beholds God's throne, and receives an eternal covenant of priesthood from several angels. They wash him in heavenly waters, anoint him, array him in priestly garments, mirroring Exodus descriptions, and impart sacred knowledge. Subsequent sections interweave wisdom instruction with exhortation. Levi receives a metrological list specifying temple measurements and priestly dues. He imparts ethical admonitions to his sons, emphasizing purity, separation from Gentiles, avoidance of fornication, bloodshed, and wealth accumulation, yet affirming the Levitical mission. The text's reconstruction relies on a diverse corpus of manuscripts, ancient Aramaic fragments from Qumran, so from the cave number 4, number 1, to be found in Rockefeller Archaeological Museum, Jerusalem. You can see them. His discovery after the Second World War of the scrolls prompted Milik's investigation. Medieval Aramaic manuscripts from Cairo, Geniza, possibly from the 9th century CE, to be found in Cambridge and Oxford. A Greek manuscript, Gutlumus 39, from the 11th century CE, to be found in Mount Athos in Greece, and a Syriac fragment from the 9th century CE, to be found in British Library, London. These sources, spanning centuries and linguistic traditions before and after the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, present a complex puzzle for scholars. Inspired by Milik, they sought to reconstruct a coherent text while navigating linguistic and cultural shifts. I must note that Milik's translations are not static renderings, but provisional tools, also serving textual reconstruction. He worked with these diverse manuscript traditions, producing French translations of reconstructed fragments, and in various cases, retro-translating Greek text into Aramaic to hypothesize the original wording of Apocryphon of Levi. Drawnel writes in the introductory chapter as follows: Le fait qu'il ait traité le testament grec de Lévi comme une forme remaniée à berger de l'apocryphe de Lévi lui a permis d'inclure de nombreuses parties du premier dans la structure du second, d'en discuter le contenu et dans certains cas de les traduire en araméen. End of quote. This process was not merely linguistic, but in many cases aimed at reconstructing the historical and cultural reality behind the text. Milik's provisional translations reflect his commitment to understanding the text creation process. His approach is particularly evident in his handling of onomastic elements, where names serve as gateways to the text's geography and scribal workshop. Milik's treatment of onomastics, that is, proper names of people and toponyms, and places, toponyms, is a cornerstone of his scholarship. He engages with the concept of an onomasticon, a set of proper names and the rules governing their use in a text. Milik references historical onomasticons, such as those of Eusebius of Caesarea and Philo of Alexandria, but also posits an onomasticon of the author of the Testament of Levi, a framework for understanding how names function within the Apocryphon of Levi poetic narrative. In short, this onomasticon of Milik encompasses both the names he employs in his translation and the interpretative principles he applies to the socio-historical roles. In the realm of anthroponyms, Milik demonstrates a keen awareness of Semitic onomastic traditions. He highlights the use of hypocorisms, name elements used to show affection or familiarity with God, such as brother or father, in apocryphon of Levi's wisdom sections, noting the typically Semitic character. These terms are not mere colloquialisms, but reflect scribal conventions rooted in sapiential traditions. Therefore, he introduces the concept of sapiential etymologies, French etymologie savant, rejecting the notion of Volksetymology, German Volksetymologie, in favor of learned scribal etymologization. For example, he analyzes names like Gershon, Kahat, and Merari, Levi's offspring, showing how the etymologies are crafted to serve theological and narrative purposes. This scribal creativity, which Milik terms onomastic etymologization, often involves untranslatable elements based on wordplays, challenging translators to preserve the text's cultural depth. Milik's analysis of toponyms is less developed than his work on anthroponyms, but equally insightful. He employs the concept of toponomastics to underscore that toponyms operate differently from anthroponyms in narrative texts, often serving as anchors for geographical and theological meaning. Milik observes that scribes use toponyms to create etymologie savant acoustically, linking place names to narrative themes. For instance, the mentioned name Gershon is associated with the Aramaic expression strangers in the land of Egypt, Ger Arts Hametzer, through non-obvious phonetic similarity, embedding geographical significance into the text. Milik also enumerates 4 other sapiential etymologies of the name Gershon to be found in Apocryphon of Levi. Each of those he classifies in a different way, using his own system of classification. The etymology mentioned is classified as Boustrophédon brisé. Brisé means that it does not correspond perfectly to the name, and Boustrophédon means that it follows the pattern of an ancient scribal system when the ending of one line was used as the beginning of the next one when the scribe started to write in the opposite direction. And we can see it on the screen, and we know it from Greek and other languages. Furthermore, a key concept in Milik's toponymic analysis is hagiotopography, the idea that certain places preserve the names of significant figures, such as prophets, due to religious beliefs. This concept frames toponyms as more than mere locations. They are sacred sites that carry historical and theological weight. Milik's focus on toponyms like Birat Avraham illustrates his effort to connect textual references to tangible historical realities, a theme I'll explore a little bit more now. Let me perhaps save. Okay. Perhaps it can help you to follow more. One of Milik's most insightful contributions is his translation of the Aramaic phrase mentioned, Birat Avraham. in verse 254 as demeure d'Abraham. This phrase appears in the context of Levi's ordination and Isaac's wisdom teaching following a sacrificial celebration at Bethel, quote, afin j'acheverai d'accomplir ce sacrifice à Bethel, et nous partîmes de Bethel, et nous installâmes dans Birat Avram, notre père, auprès d'Isaac, notre père. The translation of Birat Avram poses significant challenges, as the phrase is unattested elsewhere in Aramaic or Hebrew corpora from the period. The word Avraham clearly means Abraham, but Bira is ambiguous. According to Yastro's dictionary, Bira can mean first a castle or fort, second a group of buildings forming a residence, third a divine residence or temple. Apparently, in his translation, Milik opts for the second meaning, so a group of buildings. His commentary, however, reveals a deeper historical critical engagement. He identifies the demeure d'Abraham with a physical structure, the Tower of Abraham, located in Ramat el-Khalil near Hebron. This monument, Milik argues, was a focal point for interreligious pilgrimages, Jews, Samaritans, Arabs, venerating Abraham as the father of believers. Despite this archaeological hypothesis, Milik avoids translating Birat Avram as the monument of Abraham or the Tower of Abraham, opting for the broader demeure d'Abraham to encompass the site's cultural and religious significance. This choice reflects his focus on the historical reality behind the text rather than a literal rendering of the term. Imagination is undoubtedly a strength of Milik's onomastic approach to reconstruction, as noted above. However, it sometimes may lack simplicity. One of the examples in the name Reuben, which in the Apocryphon of Levi indicates a person, that is anthroponym, but Milik suggests that in the translation, the author presupposes that it is also a toponym in reference to the list we find in First Chronicles. The case is as follows, quote, et Judas leur raconta que moi-même et Simon, mon frère, nous étions partis pour exciter Rubin, notre frère, résidant à Rubin, situé à l'est de Michel. End of quote. The expression résident à Rubin is Milik's emendation to the expression notre frère à l'est de Michel. In the Aramaic text of verse 141, we read, and you have it on the screen, Ahuna de lemadnah Meshal. When we presuppose that the letter Het in Madneh is reconstructed properly, the reader might easily understand that this is Reuben, who was staying or residing in the east from Meshal. There is no necessity to speculate in the translation by adding the place called Reuben in this case. Even if Milik gives various geographical arguments for its existence, referring to the Palestinian town called Nabi Rubin, situated 9 kilometers to the east from Mysia and located 11 kilometers from Jaffa. The reason for Milik's development of this kind of speculation might be his reaction to the depopulation and, in consequence, disappearance of an Nabi Rubin during the 47-49 Palestinian War. In conclusion, Józef Tadeusz Milik's French translation of the Aramaic Apocryphon of Levi is a masterclass in balancing linguistic precision and imagination with knowledge of the contemporary situation in the Holy Land and historical critical inquiry. His onomastic analysis illuminates the interplay between names and the socio-historical realities they reflect. Through concepts such as hagiotopography and sapiential etymologies, Milik preserves a geography and cultural heritage that was at risk of fading into obscurity. In some cases, however, the results of his investigation go beyond the rules of translative economy. His work encourages us to view translation as a dynamic process of reconstructing the past, engaging with the voices of ancient scribes and breathing life into the sacred landscapes of the Testament of Levi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Karnawalski, for the clear presentation of one of the most problematic or perhaps difficult parts of Milik's book. When I was just going through the manuscripts, I must say I had a very hard time at understanding his explanations, because it was written by hand and it was not quite easy to understand. I must say that Milik's handwriting is much worse than that of Qumran scribes. So it is much better that we have finally his book in print. I open the floor to questions if there are some questions. Thank you. I think Professor Karnawalski would be happy to answer them.
We'll just add one thing, that I put a publicity of a conference which are coming to happen in Warsaw at Collegium Bobolanum. The wording of the Elijah cycle, it's an early reception. So yes, in October. So sorry, I need to.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh. Okay, it will be quite interesting event. Thank you very much. My question to Professor Karnawalski would be whether you find Milik's explanations convincing, because sometimes it might seem very speculative, no? And especially this bootstropedon explanations. I must say he must have had great imagination just to notice this kind of, possible etymological, let's say scientific scribal etymological explanations for these onomastics, because actually the explanation of these onomastics, they are not present in the actual texts, Aramaic text or Greek preserved text of this apocryphon. What would you say about his skills, Milik's skills that seem equal the skills of ancient scribes, especially at onomastics explanations?
Yeah, so if I understand well, thank you for this question. So he created his own system of interpreting, let's say, phonetic similarities between names and various biblical and non-biblical phrases, ancient phrases from the Aramaic document. And so I put that example as probably one of the most complicated, but in some cases it is convincing. In this case, it is very tricky and probably over speculative. So it would be another study probably of those onomastic cases, but we have similar terminology in. So one of your Salesian fathers, Strutz, in the past, so he wrote a thesis constructing his own terminology, right, on concerning those similarities. So and we have like Anglo-Saxon terminology, so we can find corresponding wording like alliteration, or there is a number of terms which we can apply also to the Milik's ideas. So yes, so there is a common base for all these scholars, and a kind of over speculation as well, probably in the case of Milik. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. Another question, if there are, oh yes, Shlomi, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Michał. Can you please show us again the text that you discussed on the last part of your presentation concerning the east of something?
Yes, I will show it to you. Yes, probably this is the text. Yes, right.
Do you have a... Okay, this is a very simplified transliteration. The text in the manuscript is not as well preserved in this line.
Yeah.
So, well, this is more of a comment than a question. I was saying first of all, how do I say? I need to acknowledge that you already know that I've been working on Aramaic Levi and re-editing the Aramaic fragments several years ago, and I also had a lot of problems with this line, with this fragment. Well, with many others indeed. And I must say that I find the reading Lemadnach to the east not very convincing, both in relation to the actual remains on the manuscript and in contrast. And in this context, it doesn't make a very good sense here. So I would prefer reading Diploma, that is perhaps, or perhaps, or lest.
Perhaps.
And now the following word from the word mesher, or this mem shin lamed, the mem is not preserved at all. The shin can be either shin or tet. So I wonder if one can read here something of the root katal, to be killed. And again, the ink is badly preserved here, so one can make whatever guesses one wishes. But all in all, I'm not entirely certain that this line actually contains a toponym at all. Maybe it can convey some fear or concern about the fate on the side of Reuben. Reuben is mentioned in the previous line.
Yes, thank you. So it is, thank you, Professor Shlomi. Yes, it is what I was trying to say, that we have that problem with reconstruction. Here it is indicated with head, but there is a larger problem, and that the toponym, it is his own idea, and even if we reconstruct in that way, it is the resident Rubin, so the properly toponym is not given at all, even in this kind of reconstruction. So what I wanted to say, that his understanding, his experience of the Holy Land and various even contemporary events he went through might have influenced his way of reconstructing and therefore translating. So it is visible in this case. So in the case of Birat Avraham, I would say that we can have the same thing because we have tradition of pilgrimages to Hebron of Muslims, and we have some physical objects we can touch, so buildings and tombs. And therefore, that idea of a tower pilgrimage was even more consistent for him, more prompted. And yes, so it is the whole part of things which goes beyond the economy of the text and beyond the economy of the onomastic reconstruction, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have to end these discussions perhaps in the pause after the other two papers. We are going to have more time for further discussion.